Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm not going to have a long introduction and just get straight into the video. I applied for medicine for 2020 entry. I haven't got a place, I just want to make this clear. So actually, since I filmed this video, a lot has changed, and on results day 2020 I actually got a call from King's at about 8:30 in the morning, and they decided to offer me a place on their undergraduate course. Now, if you've been following my channel and whatever, I actually declined the offer and I'm going to be reapplying for grad entry because I'm going abroad this year. But just keep in mind that they gave out a lot less offers because of the whole coronavirus situation, and I was put on a waiting list, and they gave me an offer on results day. So maybe in a normal year I would have got a place, but who knows, just to update you anyway. But I applied to a few different courses and I only got one interview, which was for the A100 undergrad medicine course at King's College London. So just in case you don't know who I am, I got a UCAT score of around 2,600. I have a UCAT video where I talk through all my sections and stuff like that. I got A-star AA in math, biology and chemistry at A-level, and at GCSE I got 10 A-stars and 1 A. So I think on the academic criteria I met everything that King's wanted. On the UCAT cutoff, I was above it. I was 70th percentile. And I was applying as a university student as well with predicted 2-1 in Biological Sciences. So obviously I can't give too much details away, but today I just want to talk about the interview experience, the MMI experience, and if you're gonna have an interview at King's, please don't mind, it's not gonna be the same probably. You'll probably get different questions. I'm sure they change it every year. It's just completely different. So only now, like, we're going into the clearing process and no one will be having interviews anymore, I feel like I can talk about it and without giving like unfair advantages. And I'm just gonna even talk briefly about the questions. I can't remember the exact questions anyway, but I'm gonna talk about the themes of each of the questions as well as the actual experience. So I obviously applied before the October 15th deadline, and then I heard back from every other application with a rejection other than this one course, and it was in January after the new year, around January 7th. Sorry, my voice is going. And I had an interview for Friday, January the 24th or 5th, around that date. So I had about 2 weeks preparation time. I'd never done an MMI before, so I didn't know what it was going to be like. But my main ways of preparation was I watched loads of videos by Biomedicine and I can't remember the other guy's name, but his name's Kenji, and I'll link them in the description. They both go to King's. I think Biomedicine is on undergrad medicine. I'm not sure about the other guy, but if you apply for grad medicine, it's the same interview, like you're interviewed with the undergrads. And so I watched loads of their videos. There were other videos I watched online, but those are the main ones. I was given a few resources from friends. I had a book as well that had more MMI questions and stuff in there, and that was the main way I prepared, and then I would just practice the questions on my own. Like I said, I didn't get an offer. I am currently on the wait list, but also bear in mind that this is the year of the corona pandemic and the predicted grade situation with GCSEs. So honestly, I have no idea if normally I would have gotten a place or not. And also I didn't hear back from King's until May the 19th, like really late. So that's why I feel like it's maybe a bit different to normal. Like I said, I can't really say. My interview was about 3:30 p.m. So I went to the guys' campus where it was. The building was really easy to find. It had a massive sign outside. I went up to the guy at reception. I said, I'm here for an interview, and he was like, okay, wait over there. And there was already loads of people waiting there. We were all dressed formally in smart clothing. And then we got taken upstairs to a room, and we basically had to sign a form and show our ID. And we also had to print out something and give it to them. It basically said that you're not going to talk about the interview, and everything's confidential, like a disclosure form. So we all handed those in as well because we were sent them with the information. The interview, if you apply to King's, you apply through UCAS, but you get a King's Apply account as well. I think if you apply for postgrad courses, you apply directly through there, but double check that. I don't think it went on my UCAS that I had an interview, but I got an alert through King's Apply and I got an email, and that's how I found out about my interview. When you're in the process, check King's Apply as well as track, but like I said, I got an email through anyway. So then we had to wait in that room with the other like cohort that was all getting asked at the same time. There must have been 14 of us because that was how many could be interviewed at once, and we had to wait quite a while, like probably up to an hour. We were allowed to talk and we still had our bags and stuff with us, so in theory you could have been practicing, but I just sat on my phone. Some people were talking to each other, most people were quite nervous and not talking, but honestly we had to wait quite a long time. Then we were brought into, we had to go like upstairs and we went into the room with the MMI. So basically how it was there was like rows of booths and you had to follow. So like I started in like position 6, so then I went 6, 7 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that was how I did it. So it's kind of it seems complicated, but they do explain to you like where you have to move and they do help you. And so you eat outside each booth. There's a little seat. You can't see inside the booth, but you can see the other people who are getting interviewed as well. You just sit outside the booth and then they have like these beeping noises, and I think basically you get a 1 minute sort of break before each one. So I think we sat on the stools like in silence for 1 minute, and then we go in the booth and you have to give them a sticky label which has your like number on it, and then they stick that onto like a form. And then I think other than that the only thing you have is water. So I went to my first one and it was a lady in there and she was asking about resilience, and actually this really threw me off because I hadn't practiced a question on resilience. But you had to give like an example of when you've been resilient, talk about resilience that you've read about or seen about, and talk about why it's important, I guess, for doctors. I was talking about the Adam K book that if you haven't read, then are you ready to apply to med school, because everyone's read it. Yeah, I kind of fumbled it. I was a bit sort of, they kind of asked me 2 questions at once and I've struggled to remember, like I ended up answering the second question then being like, sorry, what was the first question again? And having to answer that question. And most of the questions, like most of the MMI stations, there was more than one question, so they really did prompt you. So I don't think I answered that one too well. Then like the timer goes off and I think I actually had a bit of time, but I was kind of rambling a bit, and then I went to the next one and I sat outside. Like I had like a minute and I was like, God, that didn't go well. And then I went into the next one and they asked about, basically I can't remember the exact questions, but they were roughly asking about aging population and care homes and the care system in the NHS. And I got to talk about my experience then, because I have worked volunteered on geriatric wards and worked with elderly people who are lonely or vulnerable, so I got to talk about that. And this one was kind of asking, I think, about what are the consequences of an aging population and things like that. So as well, I don't think I had any particular news items in mind, but that would be a good one to talk about, stuff like that. And this one she did kind of prompt me a lot because I mentioned aging population, but I was talking about other stuff, and then she kind of focused in on that, so I think that's really what they wanted to hear about. So I thought that one went okay. Both of those women were quite friendly, to be honest. Then I moved to the next one, had my 1 minute break, and then there was a graph. If you're a grad student studying any kind of science, these questions will be so easy, I'm sure. But basically it was a graph and it was like cancer incidence in Australia and the UK, and I was studying a cancer module at that moment, and I had just studied skin cancer, so I knew exactly like what this graph was about. Obviously it's probably not even a real graph, but he said, can you describe the graph? So I just described it and I talked about how it increased, and I talked about the x-axis, the y-axis, what incidence means, for example. I think this one was per 100,000 people, so you can compare them. I think I also talked about there was no statistical analysis on this graph, but he was kind of like, oh, just assume that the results are significant. So I don't think that was really a particularly useful thing to say, but I wanted to kind of use my extra knowledge I'd learnt in my degree. And then he asked, why do you think these are different? What's different about Australia? So I talked about skin cancer being a really big thing there. A really big thing makes it sound like a trend, but like a big issue, and how they've had a lot of public health campaigns to get people to wear SPF, and they have a big barbecue culture. They spend a lot more time outside. It's more sunny in general, less overcast. I said I don't know what the Australian healthcare system is like, but it would be worth researching that to like think about it. And then the guy was talking about public health campaigns as well and whether they're useful, and I said, well, I know that in Australia like it has worked, like the incidence starting to come down, so maybe it shows that that's been effective. He also said, what do you know about skin cancer? Asked a question about skin cancer, and I was talking about melanin and melanocytes, and I don't think you'd probably need that much depth. I didn't even know that much depth, but I was like, the melanin protects from the UV rays and prevents sort of the cell division happening, the uncontrolled cell division happening, which can cause a tumour. So that's kind of thing I talked about, but I think any A-level student would be able to rustle up something like that, so don't worry too much about that kind of question. And I think in general I did well on that one. Like, I finished kind of early and I feel like I said everything that I could say. Obviously, I don't know. I've requested my feedback and it hasn't come yet because it's in paper and they can't access it because everyone's working from home. But when I do get it, I'll update the description with like my results and stuff like that. So then the next question was one about, imagine you're at school and your friend has anxiety and they don't want to tell their parents and they eventually stop coming to school. What would you do? So I talked about how I would listen to them, encourage them to speak about it. I would encourage them to go to their GP or to get some sort of counselling service, maybe at the school or maybe through the GP or self-refer. And I said I would support them, I would come with them if they wanted me to. And I said, I don't think they have to tell their parents, they might not feel comfortable, but I said if I felt they were in danger or something, I would tell a teacher or I would tell their parents if I felt it was really necessary, but I wanted to respect their privacy and their confidentiality, so unless I believed they were in danger, I wouldn't do anything. And I thought that was a pretty good answer, and I can't really remember what else was discussed in that one, but that was the general theme. And then the next station that I went to, they asked about, you turn up to a placement and your clinical partner, another student, they're still drunk from the night before and they've asked you to cover the work for them. And I sort of said, well, you know, they need to learn as well, that's not good, but patient safety is important, they shouldn't be there. And they said, oh, if you don't cover for them, then they're gonna stay. And I basically said I would tell my supervisor, like, it's not safe for someone who's drunk to be working with patients. And I think basically the woman was like, but they're your friend. And I was like, if they're my friend, then I will feel more comfortable saying something like that to them because they will understand, and I would probably talk to them more about it when they're sober instead of drunk, because drunk people can be hard to negotiate with. But I would sort of be like, look, you go home, I'm not gonna cover for you because I have my own thing, my own work to be doing, but like tell the supervisor. That was the kind of thing I was saying. Yeah, that's all I can remember about that one. The next one was then the classic photo one, and you had to describe a photo, and I found this actually really difficult. I thought I would be okay with it, but I definitely didn't practice this one enough. And I was saying like, oh, there's I think it's an Austrian flag, or I said it's a Polish flag, and he said no, don't make any assumptions about stuff like that. And I was like, oh god, because I was like, it looks like it's in Eastern Europe, but I should have just been describing what it looked like. I think I did quite bad in this one. I didn't like describe, I couldn't think of anything to say, and I know you're supposed to start big and then get smaller and smaller, and I was just going around the picture. I feel like I didn't get a good grasp of like what it looked like in general. But then they asked, why do you think we're asking you a question like this? And I talked about, you know, if there's an x-ray and you're having to describe it to a patient in simple language, if someone is blind, if someone has difficulty seeing, then you want to be able to describe these things for them. And I sort of explained that, and I think that answer is better. And then there was quite a bit of time, so I just started chatting to the guy, and he was a medical student, and I thought, oh, maybe he'll think at least I'm friendly and this will get me some points back. And by the way, they don't write anything down whilst you're speaking. They do it in that minute gap where you wait outside, or maybe it was a 2-minute gap, I can't remember, but that's when they write down your scores. You get a score for communication and a score for content, and then they can write comments as well. And then the last one, I don't know if the guy was deliberately being stern or it was the end of the day. It was about 5 o'clock at this point, but basically it was a kind of why medicine question. Why do you think you'll be suited for it? I think you had to talk about, you know, it takes a long time to become a doctor, you have to put in a lot of effort. What is an example of something you've done that for? And I talked about Spanish and how I've been learning Spanish for so long and learning it on my own outside of my degree, and that's the kind of thing that I talked about. But he was not impressed at all. He wasn't interested. And then after that, that was the last one. So we left, and as we were walking down the stairs, he was running down the stairs behind, so he clearly wanted to leave. And then we went to a room, and there was kind of a little Q&A, and they told us that we should hear in 2 weeks, but it could be as late as April. Obviously I didn't hear until May, but I kind of expected that it would take a long time to hear. And it seems like they didn't send out interviews for any offers for quite a while. There was quite like a backlog, and then we were let go, and that was it. And I didn't hear anything from them until the firm and insurance deadline was pushed back because of the pandemic, and they then said like, we'll tell you by May 20th. So that was basically my interview experience. That was the kind of things they asked about. Like I said, I watched those YouTube videos and I think I just didn't practice enough. Obviously I was at uni, most people might be at school when they have to prepare. I did have some practice ones in the careers, but we didn't really practice enough those kind of, we practiced sort of Biomedicine and we practiced some role play stuff. The King's ones were a lot more scenario based in my experience. So like I think I would have needed more practice on that and on the picture one for sure. But yeah, there's lots of different MMI questions, and in general like I thought I did okay. I didn't think I did badly, but I thought I did okay. My interview score is the reason I didn't get an offer, because it wasn't high enough. I can imagine how anyone could do better in each one of those scenarios. Like I definitely don't think I had the best answers or anything, but like I said, I think overall I did okay. I don't know, I thought it was right, but I finally talked about it. That's kind of it for my medical school application journey for 2020 entry. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Feel free to ask any questions. I'll try to remember my answers, and I also have a whole ROAD2MED playlist where I've talked about every step of my application journey. So if you're confused about anything or you don't understand, have a look at those first, but otherwise you can message me on my socials, link below, or leave me a comment and I will answer it. So I hope this was useful, and thank you for watching this video. I will see you soon, hopefully. Bye.